In today's episode of Your Average Journalist Knows Nothing About Guns, a liberal BBC reporter is shocked and outraged that he can't get a plug converter for his UK plug, but he can get a rifle and ammunition at Walmart. Okay, well, to be honest, you can get a rifle and ammunition at Walmart, depending on which state you're in. Many of them just have shotguns, but you can get guns in Walmart. And many of them do have plug converters. I guess the one he went to didn't have it. The only problem, good sir, is that he posted a photo on Twitter of BB guns. He posted BB guns. All right, look, a few years ago, I did a segment on this female reporter who went and tried to buy a gun. And it's fascinating to me that there are people who consider themselves reporters on these issues that want to espouse their opinions on gun control, and they've never even tried to get one. I mean, look, I'll frame it this way. When I was in St. Louis during the Ferguson riots, I said, we got a story about a cop fighting with some kid or whatever the story is, and, you know, this young man gets shot and killed. I think I need to at least wield a gun for the first time to understand some of the context around it. So we went to a gun range, and I said, I, as a journalist, should not be talking about why, my thoughts and opinions on why a police officer might shoot someone if I've never even held a live gun. We went to a shooting range, and I believe we used a Glock 17, and I fired, I believe, 10 rounds. I successfully hit the target in the groin every time. So I was consistent, but my aim was off. So wouldn't want to be that guy. But I thought, look, if I'm going to report on this in all seriousness, I should at least talk to them, learn a bit about guns, ask them. Because I don't live in this world where I think that there's a bunch of evil people like, yeah, I want to have guns, yeah, to hurt people. No, I was like, people have guns for self-defense. I can understand that. So I went and used one and got a walkthrough, an explanation. After that, it was probably a couple years later, I actually did a standard firearm training course in New Jersey, with the police, where they started me off with a .22 pistol of some sort and worked me up to .45 ACP. And it was fun. And I had an instructor with me the whole time who explained what to do, proper holding and all that stuff. I thought that was important. But we have journalists who have lived their whole lives without ever seeing a gun in person. And you know this is true because they think BB guns are guns. Okay, I guess technically they are in a certain sense, but these are Red Ryder carbine. These are pellet rifles. These are BB guns, and it's absolutely fascinating that they don't know this. So when I talked about this a few years ago, there was this female journalist, and she went to buy a gun for the first time, and she couldn't. I respect that. She reported her experience, and that means that experience translated to many people who also live in that bubble of not knowing what guns are, how they work, and that's dangerous. I think if you're going to report on this stuff, if you're going to report on gun crime and advocate for gun control, you should have extensive training so you can explain it. Now you get people like David Hogg, who I think he's a grifter, all right? And I'll tell you why. This is the guy from Parkland, and he's the person who was at home after the Parkland thing happened and ran back to the school to give interviews. He doesn't know anything about guns. He's also tweeted, if I could sit down, I could change some minds. And I said, bro, come on the show. No response. I sent him a DM. Hey, man, no, seriously, we'll cover your costs. Would love to have you on the show. No response. Huh. So strange. So then I messaged him again. I'm like, hey, bro, I sent you a DM. Nobody owes me coming on my show. I'm just saying, I think it is a bit... It's a sign when you say, I'd like to sit down and change some minds. And I say, bro, we will fly you out in style and have that conversation. And they say, no, you just said you'd have a conversation. Now you're not going to do it. Fine. Speaking of that, Matt Binder, you never emailed us about coming on the show. This is a leftist podcaster. We exchanged words in DM. I said, hit us up to get the scheduling down. I can't do anything else. I say, email us to let us know, when and how you want to come on the show. And then he doesn't do it. That's the left for you, I suppose. The cultural tribal left, not the economic, whatever you want to call it. Jimmy Dore's on the left, but this is the cultural left. Here's the story. I hope you're ready for this one. We also have other news, too. We've got Donald Trump Jr., who is going to be launching a gun rights group vowing to fight Democrat gun control in the process. So good for him. I'm excited for this. I also want to go over this Britannica pro and con gun control arguments because it is vomitous. The pros and cons are wrong. They're absolutely wrong. Pro and con arguments. So Britannica goes through all these different, you're like, why should we have gun control? Why shouldn't we? And I'm going to debunk them. I'm not even a gun expert. I just have some, and I can still debunk a bunch of these. I'll give you an example. They say AR-15s are military-style weapons, also known as M16s. No. M16s are select fire, AR-15s are civilian models, and they're semi-auto. Come on, guys. What are you doing? They're similar? Sure, fine. My friends, let's talk about this BBC reporter who's getting roasted for thinking a BB gun is a real gun. But before we get started, my friends, head over to surfinginternetsafe.com and get Virtual Shield. That's right. This segment is sponsored by Virtual Shield, a virtual private network service that provides you a basic layer of security as you browse the web. Surfinginternetsafe.com, you'll get 50% off. Works on basically every single device, iOS, Android, your computer, all of that good stuff. All you got to do is you download the app, you press the button, boom, you got a VPN. This means hackers, government agents, corporations have a harder time trying to steal your information. It also encrypts your Wi-Fi signal in your own home. So there's a lot of benefits to having a virtual private network service. You can get it at Surfing Internet Safe. And if you're interested in keeping yourself safe as you browse the web, you don't want people stealing your information, this is a good way to do it. The way I say it, we don't expect people to break into our homes, but we still lock our doors and windows, right? If someone really wanted to, they could battering ram down your door, but often the criminals will just jiggle the handle. Once they see they can't get in, they leave. That's the basic layer of security you'll be getting, and it's a little bit better than that, to be completely honest. But I also want to give Virtual Shield a shout out, as all of these companies are, as certain podcasters are losing their sponsors, Virtual Shield is the first sponsor Timcast ever had, and they continue to remain a proud sponsor of the show, and proudly recommended by Timcast. You know it. Seriously, Virtual Shield, you've been with us since the beginning. And so to everybody, if you're looking for a virtual private network, Virtual Shield is the kind of company that's going to stand on principle and support the work that we do. Tremendous respect. Let's read this story. It's no wonder you guys lost the war. BBC reporter is roasted by Americans for mistaking a BB gun for a real shotgun in Walmart and tweeting in disgust. Oh, no. A BBC journalist on a work trip to the U.S. was mocked for sharing a shot of a BB gun for sale in Walmart after apparently mistaking it for a real firearm. The journalist Padraig Belton, whose work has appeared in the BBC and in The Guardian, sent out the unfortunate tweet on April 26. According to Belton's Twitter feed, he arrived in the U.S. on April 25th. Upon arrival, he realized he didn't have a plug for his laptop. Why we have the tweet. He says, "Hello, I am a well-traveled journalist, and also it only occurred to me at 1 a.m. when I sat down to file my piece that the U.S. has U.S.-style plugs." You're not well-traveled. No, I'll tell you this. Why? Almost all hotels have converters. You can go down and say, "I need a converter," and they say, "You got it. Which country?" In fact, most of them have universal converters that will work with any outlet to U.S. plugs. I don't know where he was staying. I'm not sure where he was staying, but maybe they didn't in this instance, so he had to go to Walmart. It is unclear if Belton was serious in his tweet, as he has covered numerous war zones in his journalistic career. From there, the journalist went to Walmart in Hallandale Beach, Florida. Okay, come on, Florida? They have to have these adapters. Come on, people. Florida is loaded with people from Central and South America. While in the story, posted a photo of 3 different BB guns. The BB guns pictured by Belton were Daisy's Red Ryder carbine and Powerline Model 880, as well as Crossman 760 Pump Master. None are real firearms. I would just like to point out, it is possible Padraig Belton, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, was joking. I think it's a fair point. Okay. The other day, I talked about this guy, what was his name? Richard Hanania. And I said, I didn't know if it was parody because it was so, it was so close to being real. It turns out it was parody. This may be a guy making fun of Walmart. I'm just going to go ahead and assume probably not. And if it is, okay, fine. I'll eat that one. But the issue is this kind of thing occurs so often that when you see a journalist say, "Hi from America, where Walmart doesn't have a plug adapter, but on the other hand, I could buy a rifle and ammunition," I have to assume he's being honest because he's from the UK and doesn't know anything about guns. I'd also like to point out, dude, you're from the UK. You can't buy a gun in America. That's funny. I can buy a gun. Did you notice that it's locked up in a case and they're BB guns? Did you even bother to ask? Because if you did try to buy a real rifle, they'd say, are you a U.S. citizen? No, dude, we can't sell you the gun. Conservative activist Benny Johnson was among those who joined in the mocking of Belton. Johnson said the last time British snobs marched into America and tried to control our economy, we grabbed real rifles and real ammunition and kicked their butts. Actually, the revolution was very much about gun control. The regulars were trying to seize weapons in where was that? Concord or something like that? The founder of the Federalist, Sean Davis, tweeted to Belton, did you actually think you could buy a real gun for $28? Look, I gotta say, it's entirely possible that this dude was joking. He didn't mean it seriously. Jerry Dunleavy said, sir, if it is in stock, you should check to see if the plug adapter included with this Italian-made item would also work for your European-style laptop. And of course, they're all making that joke about, what's that movie? It's a Wonderful Life? No, that's not the one. I don't know. That one with the little kid and he's got the BB gun and they're like, you're going to shoot your eye out. Everybody kept saying that. Yeah, because of the Red Ryder BB gun. These things are like air compression pellet rifles. Okay, a rifle and ammunition. Someone said, first, those are BB guns. Second, our guns are the reason we don't bow to a queen. Ooh, sick burn. Rita Panahi says, they're toys. Why would Walmart have plug adapters for UK laptops? How much demand is that for their outside shops at the airport? No, I got to stop you there, Rita. They typically do have them because people need to buy adapters. It's a normal product to have. They probably only have a few of them, but yeah. The only response Belton made to the Twitter mob was a message to the Daily Wire's Ian Worth. Hallworth posted a link saying that Walmart did sell plug adapters. Okay, was he joking? Belton told Hallworth that Walmart only sells the adapters online, but then an employee directed him to a nearby Apple store. He earlier told Belton these are air rifles, which are legal. Hallworth earlier told Belton these are air rifles, which are legal in the United Kingdom. They're legal in the UK, too. Oh, man. Radio host Larry O'Connor jokingly thanked Elon Musk following the billionaire's takeover of Twitter, saying the site was 1,000% better. Totally possible this guy was joking. I think the guy may just been joking. That's a fair point, but I don't have any evidence to suggest that. And then there's Poe's Law. Listen, I'll say Poe's Law, but I'll say Occam's razor. In the absence of evidence, the solution that tends to be correct, the solution that makes the least amount of assumptions tends to be correct. I love saying that. You know that, right? So this guy who's a journalist from the UK, probably doesn't know anything about guns and is probably critical of American gun culture, likely was mocking American gun culture, but didn't know what he was talking about because that's common among these people on the left who are calling for gun control. Shout out to our good friend David Hogg, who said, if I could get a beer or soda, pick your poison, with each of the people who call me names, I could probably change their mind 9 times out of 10. Doesn't mean they will completely agree with me, but I bet I could change their mind at least a little. Not possible on Twitter. I said, you know what? You're right. I said the same thing to Hassan. That's why we don't do online for IRL. We bring people into the studio for a real conversation. When you do online conversations, people will just say stupid things. They won't engage you seriously. No, you got to sit down and have that conversation. So I messaged David. I said, hey, man, for real, come out. We'd love to have you talk about gun control. He ignored it. I quote tweeted saying hey, man, let's do this. He ignored it. I quoted him again, sent you a DM, brother. He ignored it. I do not believe David Hogg is actually interested in having a conversation, but I guess I will point out I don't call him names. I typically refrain from insulting people, although I may call them liars, which is a statement of fact, or my opinion on the person, or evil. But I won't say stupid doo-doo head or anything like that. David Hogg is welcome to come on the show. We can have that conversation. It's just not going to happen because this is common among people who want to take away your rights. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't care to know what they're talking about. They just get free traffic. I'll have a discussion with anybody, and you can tell me I'm wrong. And you see, that's the difference between the modern political left and the political right. They call me right-wing, sure, in the context of the group of people willing to have legitimate conversations and have their views challenged. Fine. Jimmy Dore, in that case, would be right-wing as well. But that makes no sense. Jimmy Dore's clearly left-wing. None of it seems to make sense, to be completely honest. These are just people who say whatever they need to say to get money, and that's it. Which brings me to this story. Donald Trump launching gun rights group vowing to fight Democratic gun control proposals. Donald Trump Jr., obviously someone who knows a thing or two about guns, I would imagine, and wanting to protect our gun rights. The Second Amendment Task Force plans to build its operation around Trump's high social media visibility and following, as well as his national media appearances. But I will give a special shout out and say, Don Jr., your dad enforced the bump stock ban. I think that's wrong. First on Fox. Fox News Digital has learned Trump Jr. will be launching the Second Amendment task force. Quote, the Second Amendment is the whole ballgame. It's the freedom that protects all of our other freedoms. Unfortunately, the Biden administration and Democrats in Congress are hell-bent on eroding our constitutional right to keep and bear arms. Whether it's nominating radical gun grabbers to senior positions in the executive branch or pushing anti-gun legislation, Trump Jr. told Fox News Digital, the Second Amendment task force is entirely devoted to ensuring the left is never successful in disarming American citizens. I respect that. I agree with it. But I think Don Jr. probably won't go far enough. I bring you now to Britannica's procon.org. Gun control, they say. The arguments for and against gun control. And there's 15. And they're wrong. I do think it's fascinating that the cons disprove the pros. So it's pro-gun control. And the con disproves the pro. So it's like, how are there even pros if you prove them wrong? The pro number one, the Second Amendment is not an unlimited right to own guns. In the June 26, 2008, District of Columbia et al. V. Heller, Justice Antonin Scalia wrote, like most rights, the right secured by the Second Amendment is not unlimited. Nothing, in our opinion, should be taken to cast doubt on long-standing prohibitions on the possession of firearms by felons and the mentally ill, or laws forbidding the carrying of firearms in sensitive places, such as schools and government buildings, or laws imposing conditions and qualifications on the commercial sale of arms. I don't think Antonin Scalia is completely wrong, but you see how they turned that statement into the Second Amendment is not an unlimited right to own guns. Yes, it is. What he's talking about is felons, through due process, lose that right. The mentally ill, through due process, lose that right. And you can't bring your guns to certain places, but you can own them. You want to make an argument about some people losing their right to keep and bear arms through due process? By all means, go and do it. That I accept. But the Second Amendment says the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Con 1, the Second Amendment of the U.S., protects individual gun ownership. This basically disproves their first point. Their pro-gun control is sophistry. Antonin Scalia is not saying people can't own weapons. He's saying you can lose the right through due process and you can't bring it to certain places. And if you want to buy it, there's certain elements, requirements for buying it, but you can own it. I disagree to a certain extent. Here we go. More gun control laws would reduce gun deaths. Okay, then we have this con 2. Gun control laws do not deter crime. Gun ownership deters crime. If you want to play a game of pro and con, don't have the cons counter, debunk the pro. Here's my favorite. High-capacity magazines should be barred because they too often turn murder into mass murder. See, this is a manipulation. Most mass shootings are with handguns. So what are you talking about? A Glock 17 with 17 rounds? Is that high capacity? Yes, according to Democrats, it is. Even though it's called a Glock 17, the weapon is a standard issue 17 round handgun. You want to get an extended magazine where you got it's hanging all low about it? You get 30 or 60 or whatever? Okay, fine. But standard capacity, look at this. They say high capacity magazines are just 30 rounds or even 90. No, 30 is standard. When you buy any AR-15, like 223 or 5.56, it's going to have a 30 round mag. They're not going to give you this microscopic little 10 round thing unless you're in places like Maryland and New Jersey. But that's because they are changing what is standard. Gun control laws infringe upon the right of self-defense. That's true. 4, more gun control laws are needed to protect women from domestic abusers and stalkers. What? No. More women should have guns to protect themselves from abusers. Gun control laws, especially those, this is a con, to ban assault weapons, infringe upon the right to own guns for hunting and sport. I don't care why they infringe. They do, period. This pro and con was clearly written by someone who doesn't know anything about guns. Case in point, I bring you number 15. Civilians, including hunters, should not own military-grade firearms or firearm accessories. Yes, they should. Yes, they should. They should have tanks. They should have tanks with mounted, crew-served 50 BMG belt, whatever. You get the point. Fully auto, butterfly trigger, whatever you want to call it. M134s. That should be attached to everybody's pickup truck. Black trans women should be on their rooftops with Barrett M82s, sitting and protecting their community as they see fit because the Second Amendment said so. You don't like it? Amend the Constitution. Can't do it? Too effing bad. Look what they write. President Ronald Reagan and others did not think the AR-15 military rifle, also called M16s by the Air Force. I'm going to vomit in my own mouth. AR-15s are civilian variants of the M16, which is a select fire rifle, which can do semi-auto, burst, and fully automatic. Also, AR-15 can be a style which can be chambered in many different rounds. For instance, I personally own an AR-15 style rifle chambered in .450 Bushmaster, which has, I think, a 6-round magazine. They're large rounds, and they're for deer hunting, basically, hunting large game. Look, I don't know everything about guns. I'm sure a lot of people are going to say, Tim, you got that wrong or otherwise. But the point is, these people have no idea what they're talking about. Gun control efforts have proved ineffective. That's a fact. That is a fact. Look, right now, we live in a world where guns exist and guns are being 3D printed. All right, you're not going to shut it down. Welcome to America. You go to Walmart and you can buy a BB gun. You want to know why you probably only saw BB guns? Because everybody else is 3D printing their own guns at home. Deal with it. You want to talk about keeping this country safer? I watched a video, and there were a bunch of little kids playing baseball, and a bunch of gunshots ring out, and everyone panics. These things happen. What if a car started driving through a crowd? We've seen that happen too. It's not the gun. Guns are weapons. Weapons can be misused. They're powerful weapons. Let me ask you this. What if someone created a magnetron weapon, like a microwave, an active denial system? Extremely easy to do. And what if they walked up to a park carrying the strange backpack with a weird 2x4 with magnetrons mounted on it? You'd be like, I don't know what he's doing. And then when he pointed it and turned it on, you wouldn't hear anything. And then all of a sudden, people would start screaming. Weapons can be dangerous. The problem is the people and the lunatics who do these things, not the gun. People who use them for wrong are wrong. But the overwhelming majority of gun owners do not break the law. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. over at youtube.com/Timcast. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all then.